We all know Matt from Wii Sports. He's the final boss from Wii Sports Boxing, the champion of swordplay in Wii Sports Resort, and he's been memed across the entire internet for years now, making him one of the most iconic and powerful Miis in Nintendo's history. But do we really know who this guy is? Outside of all the jokes and Steve Harvey comparisons, is there anything noteworthy behind Matt's character? Or is he just another CPU Mii that had his fame blown way out of proportion by meme culture? Today, we're going to look back at Matt's origins and figure out why he's become such a beloved icon in the Mii community. It all began on November 19th, 2006 when the Wii console released in North America, launching with several default channels including the Mii channel, where people could create their own custom avatars called Miis that could be used in specific games like Wii Sports, a game that was bundled with the console upon release. However, unlike most Miis, Matt's story didn't begin in the Mii Plaza. Instead, he was created on August 30th, 2006 at 4:24 AM according to information from his Mii ID. More on this in a minute. Most Miis were created by you, the player, on the Mii channel. You could create anybody you wanted on the channel, yourself, your grandmother, Peter Griffin from Family Guy, and you could turn around and immediately use them in Wii Sports. However, if you didn't create any Miis before loading Wii Sports, Nintendo gave you the option to use pre-made guest Miis to play as, and their designs are pretty generic since they're meant to be placeholders for the Miis that you create. However, Nintendo also created CPU Miis that you could play against in tennis, boxing, and baseball, and these guys were a little bit more complex than the guest Miis. These were more detailed Miis that had actual names and skill levels that gave you a challenge in each sport that you played. Each sport had a different CPU Mii as its champion, which fed into the idea that these Miis had personalities, they had backstories, and they all had athletic skills that made them unique. Just like any other Mii, you could go back to the Mii channel and create them for yourself if you really wanted to, but the CPU Miis in my eyes are kinda like celebrities because everybody knows them, and even if they're not in your own Mii Plaza, they always pop up in other games like Wii Sports Resort, Wii Music, and Wii Party. Matt was one of the 60 pre-made CPU Miis introduced in Wii Sports, and like I mentioned earlier, he's the champion of boxing with a skill level between 1550 to 1649, and can be seen wearing his personalized silver boxing gloves. He's also your coach in the boxing training minigames, implying that there's some sort of storyline where he's training you to be the best boxer you can be, only to become your final opponent, forcing you to surpass him in the ring. I'll talk more about that later though. For now, let's look at Matt's reputation. He's often regarded as a god amongst Miis by the internet because of how good he is at everything, and while Matt seems to be a god at boxing, he also plays other sports like tennis and baseball. Surprisingly though, he's pretty bad at them despite what the internet might tell you. In tennis, he only has a skill level between 48 and 59, and is one of the first few opponents that you face alongside Miu. In baseball, Matt has a skill level between 98 and 268, which may sound good, but is actually one of the worst skill levels when compared to other CPU captains that you play against. Then in Wii Sports Resort, Matt makes an appearance in a few different sports where he's pretty decent. In table tennis, he has a skill level of 776 to 780. In basketball, he has a skill level of 446 to 450. But then in cycling, he's pretty bad and typically finishes the race in 74th place. However, just like how he was the champion of boxing, Matt is the champion of swordplay on Woohoo Island with a skill level of 1496 to 1500. He's also the final boss in Swordplay Showdown, being the last person you fight in the volcano on level 20, the hardest level in the sport. Additionally, given his expertise on swordplay, he's also the referee for Speed Slice. Now looking back at all these different sports that we see Matt play, it's very clear that while he may lack talent with most of them, the two sports that he's good at, he's the GOAT. In fact, he's the only CPU Mii to be the champion in more than one sport, and I should also mention that in Wii Party, he's a master difficulty Mii with records in several different minigames, so him being a master at all these different things has led the community into thinking that he's a god amongst men, when in reality, he's just a very talented athlete with a passion for what he does. Now when it comes to boxing and swordplay, Matt is the GOAT because there's nobody that can hold a candle to him except for you, the person that he personally coached. And I believe that is something that separates Matt from the other CPU Miis and other sports champions. He's always there coaching and refereeing in his spare time because he genuinely enjoys combat sports and wants to be in the environment going into his old age. As he gets older and new athletes start popping up on Woohoo Island, he wants to pass his knowledge down to the next generation, and that's why we see him taking on roles as both an athlete himself and as a coach. Now, we have covered Matt's origins as a CPU Mii, but let's talk about his in-universe origin. What do we really know about Matt as a person, not as an NPC? There's two major things right off the bat. His favorite color is orange, and he looks like he's a middle-aged man due to his bald head. Like I just mentioned, we don't know if he's in his late 30s or 40s, but based on context clues, we know that he's not young, and in the world of sports, he's right around that age where athletes retire and start moving into coaching roles, so that checks out. However, that's not all we know about Matt. In a Nintendo data leak from September 2020, the same one that showed us Luigi's intended 3D model for Super Mario 64, confirming the L is real theory, we also learned about the nationalities of different CPU Miis. Matt, for instance, was confirmed to be North American, and on top of that, his original favorite color was supposed to be red, not orange. But want to know something interesting? If you pay attention to the wall behind Matt during some of those boxing training minigames, you'll notice that there's a ton of different pictures on the wall that show a younger Matt, with hair, wearing red shorts. It's a very fun Easter egg knowing that Matt was originally going to be a red Mii rather than an orange one, and it gives us more insight into his personality and how his favorite color changed as he got older. However, what's most interesting about those younger pictures of Matt is that they tell a story. We see that Matt is already wearing his silver boxing gloves in the pictures, so he's been the boxing champion for several years prior to the events of Wii Sports, and he's had to defend his title from challengers like Andy, who is also younger in the pictures and has a big afro. I like to think that these pictures were taken sometime in the 80s like some of those Rocky movies. However, based off those pictures and how vintage they appear to be, we're now able to paint a more clear picture of Matt's life, and this is what I believe it to be. It's clear to me that Matt has been in the boxing game for several decades because, like all champions, it obviously took him years to make his way to the top. He wasn't born a champion like we would all like to believe. Matt had to work tirelessly to earn his title as the boxing champion, and once he claimed it, he spent years defending it against some of the other CPU Miis, like what we saw with Andy. As time went on and as Matt grew older, he decided to dabble into other sports. Some of them he wasn't really good at, but when it came to another combat sport like swordplay, his boxing talents carried over and he became yet another champion. Years go by and Matt has already lost his hair, he's changed his favorite color, and he realizes that he's getting older, but he still loves boxing and swordplay. He wants to stay in those environments once he retires, so what does he do? He ends up becoming a coach and a referee. They're side hustles for the time being, but they'll allow him to stay close to those sports once younger athletes come and take over his titles. Then one day, you, the player, with whatever Mii that you decide to create, steps into Matt's gym and starts training under his wing. He becomes your coach, and he starts helping you climb the ranks of boxing until one day you're ready to become the next champion. That day finally comes where you step into the ring and face off against Matt, one-on-one, and he shows you just how powerful he really is. He's a tough opponent, and a quick one too, but thanks to the training that he put you through and your experience thus far, you beat him and finally claim the title of champion, dethroning Matt and getting your own pair of silver boxing gloves. From that day forward, Matt still likes to box and take play in swordplay activities, but once he retired from the role of champion, his next step in life is taking up coaching, refereeing, and of course, he'll always like to party on Wii Party, so now that he doesn't have to defend his title, he can always do more of that. And that's the story of Matt. He's just a really good boxer and a really good swordplay athlete. At the end of the day, he's just a CPU Mii that Nintendo created, so you had someone to play against in Wii Sports. But because of his intense skill and the mystique behind his origin, the internet decided to make a meme out of him. And in my eyes, memeing Matt was probably the best thing that we as a community could have done, because not only has it immortalized him as a character and made him the mascot of a series where you can play as literally anybody thanks to the concept of Miis, but it helps keep the Wii Sports series of games alive even after 2 other generations of consoles. The Wii is one of Nintendo's most popular consoles for a reason, and Wii Sports was one of those things that made it such a success. But what made Wii Sports a success? At first, it was the simplistic yet fun motion controls, but now in today's day and age, everybody loves Matt, and we're gonna keep loving Matt for years and years because he really is the GOAT. As always though, thank you all so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed, because I had a lot of fun revisiting some of my favorite games of all time. If you enjoyed the video and want more content like this, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. I mostly talk about Dragon Ball, but from time to time, I love making random videos about other things I enjoy, so I hope to see you around whenever I make another Nintendo video. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you all in my next video. See you guys later.